video is an art study, but not just an art study. There's going to be a little more involved. I'm focusing on the Song of the Lark, a painting with which many of you are familiar. A painting which I think is important because of the themes of it, the essential truth of the painting. To remind you of the painting, we saw that there are these two halves. There's a dominant horizontal line, and in the bottom portion of the painting there is the dominant browns and grays and the image of the sickle, and then in the upper half of the painting, the green, the yellow gold, the rising sun. The two halves summarized by the reflecting images, the rising sun, the semicircular shape, the sickle, the semicircular shape, the rising sun, the image obviously of hope beginning, the sickle, the image of reaping, of ending. Bottom half, top half, beginning, ending, worn path, meaning that this is a cycle that this woman has walked many times before, evident in her muscular arms, her calloused hands. So she is very much part of the cycle. She is at the center of the cycle, literally. Beginning, ending, young peasant girl standing at the center of it all. But then there's also that diagonal dimension to the painting. Two diagonals, they meet here at the intersection of the green and the brown, and then the first diagonal comes up across her shoulders to this corner here, kind of following the tilt of her chin. The second diagonal comes down along her hands to the corner of her skirts, and then down here to this corner. So the diagonal thrusts the painting out, so from a pinpoint back here and then moving out, just as her vision is moving out. And to what is moving out, we know only by the title, The Song of the Lark. So she's in the midst of the cycle, she's in the midst of her labor which is an element of the cycle, because labor is that which is never done. It's a repetitive process. She's in the midst of her cycle, in the midst of her labor, but yet she pauses and she looks out of it. Literally, she looks out of it, and to be attentive to the lark, to the Song of the Lark. In the Song of the Lark, the image of beauty, so there is something timeless which calls her, which attracts her, draws her heart. That's the essential human tension right there, that we are part of this cycle, part of the process of beginning and ending. But yet, while we are part of the process of beginning and ending, there is that in us which looks for something beyond that cycle. It's a tension within us, it's a frustration within us. And sometimes humanity is tempted to conclude that it is only a frustration, that there really is no answer to it, that when push comes to shove, we are caught in the cycle. But what the peasant girl is doing, what she's coming out of herself, she's allowing herself to be drawn out by something greater than herself, this beauty, this song. And that's the movement of human nature. I've talked before about the three elements of the human nature: the body, the intellect, and the will. And each one of them have this characteristic. Each one of them, like the peasant girl, each one of them is looking out towards something greater. The body, the senses of the body, drawn by forms of beauty, drawn by aroma, drawn by touch, drawn by light, drawn by harmony, drawn by sound. Then the intellect, looking for truth from the time you were 2 or 3 years old, and wanting to know why, wanting to know answers, always looking outside of yourself for those answers. And then the will. The will is the most nebulous of the three aspects, but it's essentially the desire of the human person to escape his own loneliness. Will manifests itself in the desire to be part of the team, the desire to achieve some kind of fame, the desire to achieve some kind of fortune. When you achieve material wealth, you have the satisfaction, sort of knowing that you've expanded yourself. When you achieve fame, you have the satisfaction of seeing that your name is being pronounced by the lips of others. Your picture is on wall, your picture is in magazines. So you have, again, you've expanded yourself, you've multiplied yourself. This is what the will wants. The will wants the person to escape from his own isolation, to escape from his own loneliness, to be part of the big, the great, the lights, the cameras, the action. Now, all this gets messed up when these three elements of the human person, the intellect and the body and the will, start acting independently, so to speak. There are those who live fully the life of the body, and they think that their immortality is to be achieved through their own beauty or their own strength. There are those who think that their immortality is to be achieved through acquiring some great fame, through having their names and their pictures multiplied. There are those who think that their immortality is going to be achieved through the power of knowledge. They become the nerds, the geeks, who shut off the other elements of their lives in the pursuit of this kind of knowledge. So one person is off on this track. One person is the bodybuilder. One person is the woman with the tight skirts, and another person is the person who dedicates himself to the stage, to the camera. And then there's this other person who dedicates himself to the computer screen, to the acquisition of knowledge, to making himself his own little Google source. But it's always fragmented. The emphasis is always here or here or here. Very, very rarely do you find the person who has some kind of integration of all three elements of the human person. That person, by the way, is, when you know what integrated means, it means all elements come together and become whole. So the person who is fully integrated in the three elements of his own nature is the person, quite simply, that we call holy. The object of our search. Now, basically what I've said so far is that these elements of the human person are on a search. Searching what? Now, just as the integrated, the whole person is not looking solely for that which is intellect, or solely that which is body, or solely that which is will, the object of the person's search, obviously, is not going to be just in forms of body, in forms of matter, or in forms of the will, or in forms of the intellect. The object of the human person search is going to be all three. It's going to be intellect, body, and will. And so the object of the human search is obviously another person. We are intellect, body, and will. Intellect, body, and will is searching. It's searching for fulfillment, searching for satisfaction. Satis means complete, whole. So where are we going to find that? We're going to find that only in another person. And that person, if you try to make that person, which is the object of your search, another human person, you're going to be greatly disappointed. You can't put that burden on another person. You are the object of my search. You are the answer to the desires of my nature. It's too much for another human person to bear. A human person can't meet the qualifications. So we come back, well, the object of our search must be in a person. Okay, true. Not a human person? No. Then who? Well, then the ultimate person, the person who is God. All of our response to beauty, our attraction to those elements which bring us out of ourselves. This is the fundamental search. This is the fundamental search for God. And the little stove is certainly getting smoky, isn't it? There's a lot of wind blowing around out there, and it's blowing the smoke right back down the smokestack. I may pass out in the midst of this video, but oh well. We long for God. I know you've heard it said before, but I'm trying. Well, that was a bit of a jump to the idea of the Eucharist. What is it? Eucharist is a physical connection with God. The Eucharist is a physical connection with God at a certain point. There's a historical dimension, there's the eternal dimension. The Eucharist is the connection with a historical time period. It's our connection with Golgotha. It's our connection with the sacrifice of Christ. It's our connection with death. It's our connection with the cycle. Through the Eucharist, we join ourselves to Christ on the cross in a physical way, in a real way. So there is that dimension. The intellect, the body, and the will of the human person, everything is worked into this. The intellect through the knowledge, the understanding of what is happening, the will through the desire to be there, the body through the physical connection. And we connect with that moment, we connect with that historical moment, we connect with that death, we enter into that death and through that connection with the Christ. And as we enter into that death, we enter inevitably into that resurrection. So the cycle becomes the means of resurrection. The cycle becomes the means by which everything that we do, everything that we experience, everything which is subject to termination, which is subject to mortality, which is subject to decay, all of that becomes part of the resurrection. All of that becomes part of life. There is no other way to satisfy the tensions of the human person. The human person wants immortality. Your nature tells you that. Your body tells you that. Your intellect tells you that. Your will tells you that, as they always look out towards something. Your nature tells you that, in that your nature is always dissatisfied, looking for more, looking for more, looking for more. Your nature wants immortality. Your nature wants, like the woman in the Song of the Lark, she wants to be out of the cycle. She wants to be part of something complete and great. But yet we are creatures of time. And we are creatures of decay. And every great thing that we do on its own, every great thing that we do on its own is going to be subject to decay. I scoff about my effectiveness as a teacher, and people say, "Oh, Mr. Miller, you're not giving yourself enough credit," and blah, blah, blah. But I know most is going to be forgotten. I know that I'm going to be forgotten. I know that my little barn room here will be torn down as soon as I'm off the property. The work that I do in Detroit, it's such a drop in the bucket. There is so much evil, there's so much death in that place. And what effect do I have? It's the same question that Mother Teresa was asked when she was working in Calcutta, this vast city with so much poverty, so much decay, so much death. And Mother Teresa, what do you think you're accomplishing? The few people that you pull out of the gutter, what are they in comparison to the vast numbers? Well, we know what she answered. She answered that she wasn't supposed to be successful. She wasn't supposed to be effective. She was supposed to be faithful, quite simply. And all due credit to Mother Teresa, there's a little more to it than that. Yes, be faithful, but come on, don't we want to be successful? Yes. Don't we want immortality? Yes. But we can't reach it by building the great bridge. We can't reach it by getting our education, certification, and being the brilliant, quote, effective teacher. We can't be it. We can't reach immortality by the accumulation of property. We can't reach it through our Lexus or through our boat, or on and on and on. You get the point. We reach it through the loving embrace of all that Christ suffered. We reach it through the loving embrace of that moment of death and dying. And when we embrace that death and dying of Christ, everything that we die every day in our relationships, in our work, all of that goes with him to its natural end. It goes with him to death. And then all of it kind of comes out the other end. It comes out to resurrection.